edition of the Black Dimension. This is Roger, and I'm here to talk a little bit about this ridiculous stuff they doing with Spider-Man. Like it makes zero sense. And I want y'all to pay attention because, in my opinion, this seems like Sony is just really on some bogus stuff. Now, if you heard the other show we did when we talked about Spider-Man, y'all already know I'm not supporting them at all. I'm not trying to hear any. I'm not trying to see any type of Spider-Man that's not involved in the MCU. That's where Spider-Man needs to be. The the acquirement of Spider-Man. Well, I can't say acquirement, I guess, but the sharing of Spider-Man in the MCU. Great. Um, he was in 5 movies, as y'all know. All the movies were good, but what do you expect at this point? The MCU has definitely been doing their thing for a long time now, and there's no reason to expect them to have a misstep. So I doubt that's gonna happen anytime soon. So that being the case, I want y'all to pay attention to the fact that it seems to me that Sony has been trying to orchestrate a certain agenda this whole time. Okay, Sony released those statements. Of course, they blame Disney and Kevin Feige for not being able to have time to work with Spider-Man because of the other things that Marvel has acquired from Fox. Which was if you're not really paying attention, that would sound somewhat correct, but trust me, that is not correct, not correct at all. And the shame is some people may actually believe that, but there's no way in the world that Kevin Feige is too big for absolute favorite character, and he's been trying to get Spider-Man involved with the MCU ever since the MCU started back in well before the first Iron Man movie came out in 2008. Now that those scenes, well, that first scene has been released of Nick Fury. That was film that movie. So now we're talking about 2006, 2007, because the movie was released in 2008. Kevin Feige already been trying to work it. Marvel characters can be involved. So, in my opinion, it's kind of obvious that Sony pulled on this deal because what they're looking to do is really is force their way into the MCU. Now, pay attention, you will see the connections as well. Now, I don't know if you guys know, but I did say it on the last show. There was no plans for Sony to work with the MCU place. Was trying to construct a deal, and they forced the people here in America who was dealing with Spider-Man and Sony, Amy Pascal and whoever her crew is. The people from overseas forced them to work with Kevin Feige. Because when Kevin Feige made offers to get Spider-Man in, they turned them all down. Okay. Now we all know they haven't been doing the greatest job with the live action Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, good movie, but it's not a live action movie. Totally different thing. Totally different concepts you do. You know how it is. Cartoons are very different than live action movies. Sony somehow got a good cartoon, man. I'm not hating on that, but they do not know how to handle live action Spider-Mans the best way. And now the field has changed because now we're in a world where you have heroes, crossing over to each other's movies and crossing together in movies of their own. But well, I can't say of their own, but crossing over in major event movies. Avengers films so far, all of it was great to see Spider-Man. in Endgame. That was an awesome thing. It was great to see him in Infinity War. That was an awesome thing. His solo movies has been great. He was great in Captain America: Civil War. So I'm pretty sure fans in general have enjoyed Spider-Man being in the MCU. So now that Amy Pascal and her crew was forced to do a deal with the MCU, and they understand the magic of the MCU because they do got some magic going on. They are clicking on all cylinders, and if you think about it, some of their earlier movies didn't do $1 billion, but I would have to go back and check, but I'm pretty sure at least their last 10 movies have probably done $1 billion. You know, Spider-Man: Far From Home did over a billion. I believe Far From Home did over a bit. I mean, Far From Home did over a billion, and Spider-Man: Homecoming, I believe, also did over a billion. Infinity War did over a billion. Endgame did over a billion. Captain Marvel was over a billion. They've been definitely knocking it out of the box. So they've been hitting a billion on a regular basis now. You know, so the MCU has a successful formula that's absolutely working. Now, since Sony cannot carry a live Spider-Man to even compete with what the MCU is doing, it looks like their plan was okay. Well, since we were forced to let Spider-Man be involved in the MCU, now we're going to take Spider-Man back, and going to we're going to try to force ourselves into the MCU. Because as I mentioned before, Amy Pascal said before the Spider-Man Homecoming out, and before Spider-Man Homecoming came out, that Spider-Man would be doing certain things, and it'd be an adjunct to the MCU. And Kevin Feige looked extremely surprised when she said this in an interview. So obviously, it was news to him at that time. So now we're at a point where Spider-Man has been in 5 MCU movies. Of course, us as fans want to see Spider-Man in the MCU movies. So now Sony is trying to force uh, the this Venom verse that they're trying to create into the MCU. And I'm saying that because they've got legitimate offers. If the rumors about these offers are anywhere near true, these offers are absolutely legitimate. When you're having the success that Marvel is having, even if you offered a 50% deal, saying, "Hey, since everything's working great right now, we'll put up half the cost for Spider-Man, and we will take 50% of the profits of the Spider-Man movies." That is not unreasonable, especially when your movies are more than likely going to hit $1 billion. That's not unreasonable at all because they're splitting the cost. Now, even if the deal was just a 30% or 25%, that still was good because Sony is struggling when it comes to their movie division. And that's just what it is. And they need some successes right now. So if you hang with Marvel, you're guaranteed to get success. Now, according to the rumors about the deal uh, that Sony has signed with Marvel, Sony cannot. If Sony sales because their company fails, if they sell to anyone, the rights to the Spider-Man characters revert back to Marvel anyway. So if they, which of course for us MCU fans, that would be fine. Me personally, I definitely wouldn't have a problem if Sony just ran out of business at this point, as far as their movie division is concerned. So the rights can revert right back to Marvel. Because at the end of the day, that'll solve my problem. Because the only problem I have is the fact that Sony is trying to controlling percentage of the MCU, and I say that because we hear the rumors about them talking even after there was a breakdown, they couldn't come to an agreement. So then when there's rumors that they talked again, and now Sony's stance is we'll let you deal with Spider-Man, but you gotta take Venom too. So basically, what they're trying to do is make movies and attach their movies to the MCU. Think about it. They had Tom Holland sign a contract. It is speculated that that contract included 7 movies. 5 he had to do. I'm not, the rumors are going both ways as far as the last 2 movies. Some say he has to do the last 2 movies. Other reports say it's optional that he has to do the last 2 movies. But let's keep it real. Tom Holland is a young actor. He's not sitting on top of generational wealth or anything, as far as anyone knows. So it'll be hard for him to walk away from playing Spider-Man, especially if it was his lifelong dream to achieve playing Spider-Man in the first place, and to turn all that money down that he potentially can make, even if he has the option to leave, it's not likely for him to do so. Now, of course, that would play into Marvel's favor big time if he just said, "Hey, you know what? I'm not going to do the other 2 Spider-Man movies," because what Sony is trying to do is basically attach their universe, meaning Venom, into what the MCU is already doing. And I think it's entirely the right move to make for Marvel Studios to not let that happen. You can you've been setting up a universe for 11 years as far as movies being released. But of course, there was a couple years beforehand before we saw movies even come out. Based on what I've heard Marvel say, I believe Marvel Studios was trying to get things done back in 2005 as its own entity before Disney bought it. So if Marvel Studios been working on stuff since 2005, and now we are in 2019, why would they let some other studio start having control of what they're doing? They have created the most successful franchise in movie history. You know, in the history of Hollywood, no one's made more money than them as a franchise. Now, the way I look at it, Marvel has a special thing going because they're really a franchise of franchises. But according to the way Hollywood looks at it, it's all one franchise. So they are the most successful franchise. And at the end of the day, if you can make 23 movies, well, I guess with Spider-Man Far From Home, we're not like that'll make movie 24, I believe, that was involved in the MCU, and you're becoming successful to the tune of 1 billion on a regular basis. I'm pretty sure they have at least, or if not $10 billion movies, they're very close to it. I should have checked that before I even came onto the stream, but they're definitely close to it if they don't have 10 that already hit 1 billion. Because I know the Avengers hit 1 billion. I know at least 3 of the Avengers movie hit 1 billion, but I'm pretty sure all 4 of them hit 1 billion. I know Iron Man 3 hit 1 billion. Um, I know Captain Marvel hit 1 billion. So they have been very successful. Now, no matter how you put it, in my opinion, Sony doesn't really have much leverage to use when it comes to trying to make arguments. It makes no sense for the MCU to be built up the way it has been over this time between 2008 and now we're in 2019. So we've been seeing their movies for 11 years now. Why on earth would they give control to a part of the MCU and let Sony run it? It makes no sense. Even with Spider-Man Far From Home and Spider-Man Homecoming, the M- the people who run the MCU, Kevin Feige and his crew, they took control of all that type of stuff. There's the one that made that movie happen. Yes, it had Sony name on it, but Marvel Studios took care of that movie. They did the influencing. They made sure that both of those movies was right, and they did a great job on both of those movies. And Spider-Man: Homecoming was a great movie, and Spider-Man: Far From Home was an even better movie. So they definitely moved in the right direction. And unfortunately, I had an idea that there was going to be some problems, and I think even with Marvel being unsure if they can use Spider-Man for another film, they did a great job to remove Spider-Man from. Unfortunately for Peter Parker, his identity was exposed. Yes, it led up a great cliff to work. Well, it gave them time to work out any deals, and to also explain why Spider-Man is not being seen or heard from in any of the new films that's coming out. So Marvel's is going to be going to the next phase. They got movies announced. As far as we know right now, Spider-Man's not to be involved in any of those movies, which is fine because at the end of the day, he's in hiding. So whenever Sony gets some type of sense and starts to work with Marvel again, which I do believe will probably happen, but it's probably going to take a push from the fans. So as I've stated before, even though it's Spider-Man, a lot of fans are just going to have to avoid going to see that movie because if Sony is successful with a Venom movie, especially if they include a Tom Holland Spider-Man, even though based on the rumors the of the contract, they can't use any elements of what's been going on with Spider-Man from the MCU. They can't even use the characters. So Ned, uh, Aunt May, MJ, no one that was involved with Spider-Man can carry over to Sony outside of Tom Holland. So if they're gonna try to make a world that's somehow inclusive of the MCU, it's gonna be a very, very bootleg version of what was going on in the MCU. So to me, that's not gonna be the right move to make, regardless. And I doubt it's gonna make for a great movie because Sony's in charge again. And I'm just keeping it real. I just don't think they're gonna make a great movie. It's the competition level that it is now because the world has changed and superheroes meeting each other, having conversations, going on missions together. To have a world where there's only one superhero, because that's what you're gonna have when you deal with Spider-Man. Well, depending upon what they do, but you're basically gonna have one superhero at least for a while. Now maybe they'll come up with Spider Gwen or Miles Morales as a Spider-Man as well. Who knows how Sony's gonna play it if they try to continue to play this by themselves. But I honestly believe the only plan that would truly make sense is just as Marvel asked for, give them Spider-Man characters, give them control of all the Spider-Man characters. They can work all those characters into different films and in different television shows. Now that the Disney Plus service is coming, they're going to be having television shows. They will be more connected than ever before. I'm not really clear on if because of the streaming service, how much connected the other things that have been going on Netflix and ABC will be attached to the movie universe. To me, it's fine if they keep all that, but then if they reboot it, that's up to them. At this point, I trust Marvel's decisions. They do very well in their planning. They do very well in their execution. So, as a fan, I think the best move for fans to make is just simply not to support the next Spider-Man movie. It looks like a message is going to have to be sent to Sony. Now, maybe there's some folks that I believe would be in the minority that would not agree with me, and they'll Spider-Man back, and they're not sharing them anymore. I don't know how you could come to a conclusion on, but I'm pretty sure somebody think, which is fine because we all have a right to our opinions. But at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure most folks will want Spider-Man back in the MCU. And I don't want Spider-Man back in the MCU where it gives Sony control over the character. We don't need Sony's control over the character. Spider-Man has been great. This is the first time, with Tom Holland as an actor, he's been a great Spider-Man. And this is the first time a teenager was actually cast to play Spider-Man. And yeah, he's in his 20s now. He's 23 at this point, but he's still young enough to still keep playing a teenage Peter Parker. And I would like to see that. I don't want Sony wasting Tom Holland's time trying to make movies and trying to force themselves into the MCU. And they're trying to force themselves because what they want to do, even if they haven't come out and just said it, and yes, this is all my speculation, but what they want to do is have Spider Man, the MCU version of Spider Man, come into their movies and continue to make movies on their own with different Spider Man characters because, of course, they want to profit from those Spider Man characters. But the issue is the MCU has a whole universe built into their storytelling. So it would make no sense at all to have Sony doing things in the same universe, which at the end of the day, somehow you're gonna have conflicts with what's going on in the Marvel Cinematic Universe with whatever's going on with Sony while they're trying to force themselves into the Marvel Cinematic Universe. So it's a very bad idea. They don't Marvel does not need to give up that. He's in a position where they could let Spider-Man be controlled by Marvel and make a bunch of money. Period. And even as executives need to make money. But you got a surefire thing right now with Marvel's track record that if you just simply let Marvel do what they want to do with Spider-Man characters, you guys can make a lot of money. And if they put up half the cost, and yeah, they get half the return on the movie, that's not a shabby deal. Especially if you don't have to come up with all the different things that are need to be come up with because Spider-Man is going to be in the fold of the MCU. So for me to hear that Marvel is having a problem with Sony at this point, for me, is very disturbing. You know, I'm talking about as a fan of movies and a fan of the Marvel Cinematic Universe because comes to going out to check out they know what they're doing. They proved it already. I do not want to see Sony try to make some type of version of the MCU Spider-Man because I know that's what they're gonna try to do if it's in any kind of way possible. Of course, they're gonna hope that you have casual moviegoers not even understand that whatever version Sony would do on their own is not connected to the MCU. So, but if they keep Tom Holland away from the folks at Marvel, I really want to see that film flop. I want it to go like real dead. you know. Now I know some people gonna go because that's just the way it is. But I hope they don't even get to 100 million. Really, if that, you know, because this is just a bad idea altogether. It's just a bad idea. It's so many ways that Sony could have an agreement with Marvel. And the fact that they did the press and the tweet they made trying to blame Kevin Feige and Disney for not having the time to work with Spider-Man because of the other properties, bunch of hogwash. And we know that for sure because of this clip that Marvel has released. And I'm glad Marvel released this clip where we see Nick Fury from that first Iron Man movie talking about mutants and implying Spider-Man was already in that universe. So we know for sure that even though Marvel Studios didn't own those properties, they were willing to make deals to make the best MCU movies possible. They were ready to make deals. So do not buy into the hype. They're willing and dealing trying to get the best movies done for the sake of the fans. So as a fan, I'm sticking with Marvel. anything that's Spider-Man that is not attached to the MCU, there's I'm not giving money to Sony for those films. I have no intention of that. None. You know, as my my cohort said, my cohort said before, that we'll somehow check these movies out because we're gonna give some type of report on them. But at this point, I just can't see myself turning over money to Sony. So now I know, on the gaming side, you got the big two consoles are Xbox and PlayStation. Well, me personally, I'm the Xbox guy. My habitual line step of brothers, more PlayStation guy. One of them, and I believe the other one doesn't really make a difference because he deals with both. But I, you know, I'm glad I got an Xbox right now because I don't want to give a damn to Sony. Not until they get this situation straight where Spider-Man is back in the MCU. So this, I guess, is just kind of my rant on this because I really want Spider-Man to be back in the MCU because I am a fan of what the Marvel Cinematic Universe has been able to do. I wanted to see the direction they were going to go in. I wanted to see Spider-Man become a man and lead the Avengers, which what they were setting up to do. I wanted to see the story play out. And it's a shame to me if we get years wasted because Sony will not agree to something that at the end of the day is going to help them make a lot of money. Because all they got to do is make some type of agreement, even if it's a 50% deal, they still will make a ton of money using Spider-Man, Spider-Man characters being used by the MCU. They make a ton of money. And I suggested other deals. There's ways that they can make different deals and still make money. They can even just, like I said, sit back, get in cruise control, and make a deal where if the MCU has a Spider-Man character, they make maybe 10%. You know, because Spider-Man has a great rogues gallery that you can use in other movies. Just like Iron Man, unfortunately, he came to an end in Endgame, so he's no longer around. But you still got the Mandarin out there. You still got the Ten Rings out there, and they're gonna be used in other movies. Iron Man won't be involved, I'm sure, but at the end of the day, those villains can be used in different places. It may, the MCU is a different universe. It's not going to play out the same way as the different comic books. The main universe is Earth 616, but even with the other universes, nothing's going to play out quite the same way because this is just a different Marvel Cinematic Marvel universe. Even it's the cinematic universe, so it's going to play out differently, which is fine because even though there's great stories in the comics, folks can come to the movies. They may see something like a story that was in the comic books, but it's going to be told differently. Just like the story of the Infinity Gauntlet, a lot of elements were used, but it was a different story when it comes to what happened in the movies. So fans are getting the best of both worlds. And this can continue with Spider-Man, but I think as fans, we're gonna have to let Sony know what's going on, and we're gonna have to use our dollars to send a clear message to Sony that we are not interested in supporting a Spider-Man that is outside the MCU. And like I said, if somehow Sony crashes and burns, and the movie division just goes out of business, the rights revert back to Spider-Man anyway. Now, I'm the type of person I don't like to prey on people's downfall or see bad things happen to people. I really don't want a company to go out of business because I don't want to see people lose jobs and things like that. So, from the human side of me, I don't want Sony to have that type of problem. But the side of me says, hey, whatever it takes to get Spider-Man back to Sony, I'm cool with it. So, well, jobs are more important than a movie, but I really honestly hope that they just somehow come to their senses and make a deal with Marvel. And I honestly believe that there's no real deal done at this point because Sony doesn't really have leverage. You know, yeah, everybody wants Spider-Man in the MCU. Well, not everybody, but most of us will want Spider-Man in the MCU, I'm sure. But at the end of the day, they were they were actually doing a great job with the MCU before Spider-Man was involved. And if Spider-Man never got involved, I'm pretty sure we were gonna still see MCU movies regardless. I mean, think about it. The Guardians of the Galaxy were basically unknown. They're a successful franchise now. Ant Man is not a commonly known superhero, at least before his movies in the MCU were released. Ant Man was not a commonly known superhero. He just wasn't. So Marvel was able to take any property that they have available to them and make it a successful franchise. They've already proven themselves there, even when it comes to people that have barely been heard of. So, with Spider Man being as popular as he is, it just makes no sense that a company would keep Spider Man away from the MCU. But I've went on long enough for this particular show. As a fan, I'm extremely upset. I honestly do hope this gets resolved right away because I don't want Tom Holland to keep growing as a man and get out of position where he can't even play Peter Parker as a teen. I would like to see Spider-Man develop through high school. How would he handle going to college and becoming a man? Those would be great stories that I would appreciate being told in the MCU. So hopefully things are gonna get worked out. But if you come across this video, please like and subscribe. This is the Black Dimension. We're gonna do our best to give you good content at all times. So check us out, and we'll see you next time. And this has been the Black Dimension. This is a channel hosted by the Habitual Line Steppers, myself, Roger, Donnie, and Kev. So I'll see y'all on the next one. Peace out.